So at this point, get ready for a live starters review session moderated by the Dean of the Close School of Entrepreneurship, Dr. Donna DeCarolis. Starters Review is actually a program that we've put together with CBS Philly and KYW News Radio. It's a prominent set of local entrepreneurs who Donna gets to interview, and we have them posted online. You'll hear them on KYW News Radio at various times throughout the day, and it's been a really great program for us. This morning, we've got a women's entrepreneurship panel, and we're going to talk about women and entrepreneurship in Philly. And with that, Donna, the panel is on to you.
Thank you. The mic's on?
Yes, mic should be on.
Hello. Mic's on? Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to get right into the panel discussion with a little intro. So we know that 65% of the jobs students will hold over the course of their careers have not yet been invented. 6% of all U.S. jobs, it is predicted, will be replaced by robots by 2021. 40% of the workforce will be engaged in freelance work by 2020. And between 25 and 45, you will have about 10 jobs, several of them self-employment. So our panel discussion today, titled Preparing for Change in a Changing Job Market, Why Entrepreneurship Matters, could not be more timely or provocative. And I am so pleased to be with these wonderful women, the perfect panel to give their insights into this changing job market. So it's my honor to introduce our three panelists that are here. One could not make it, and we miss her. But I'm going to give their names and a little bio, and then we'll get right to the questions. So our first guest is Lindsay Tabas. Lindsay worked as a user experience architect with Gust, a firm that connects startups with investors. She also freelances as a product designer and creative engineer to design products to fit into how people do things naturally. So welcome, Lindsay. To my left is Melissa Schipke. She is CEO and co-founder of technology startup Tassel. I love that name. Listen to what it does. It connects and engages alumni networks, Tassel, freelances to support businesses with branding, marketing, and web strategies. She is an entrepreneurship mentor to middle school students with the Business of Doing Good program. Welcome, Melissa. And my friend and colleague, Archna Sahay, who is the current Director of Entrepreneurial Investment for the City of Philadelphia. She acted as a program manager for Dream It Athena, a woman entrepreneurship program. She's the founder of Female Founders Network to connect women entrepreneurs to capital. Thank you, Archana, for being here. So I'm going to ask my first question to Lindsay, if that's okay.
Sure.
Lindsay. So at the Close School, we encourage our students to be aware, as I just mentioned, that the job market is rapidly changing. It's certainly not the same that it once was. And so my question to you is, how do you think students should prepare for this job market?
It's a great question. I think one part of it you said earlier is that people will have 8 to 9 jobs before they turn 40. And I kind of want to dismiss the notion that that's a bad thing, okay? I'm one of those people that has a job that really didn't exist when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s. So 51% of people say that they want to be entrepreneurs, but 7 to 8% are actually self-employed. So I also want everyone to understand that entrepreneurship is a personality characteristic, and it can happen inside a company and outside when running your own business. The biggest thing that will make you successful in your career is to understand that leaders are learners, and you need the capability to teach yourself things. If you get a job working for someone, your manager's most likely not going to be your mentor. You're going to have to teach yourself how to do your job, how to manage conflict, how to advocate for a raise. If you're outside working for yourself, you're going to have to teach yourself just about everything: accounting, insurance, marketing, commercialization, advertising. If you're like me, you have to teach yourself how to manage yourself. But I think that the kind of Bible for entrepreneurship and work ethic is Benjamin Franklin's Way to Wealth. He has this quote that I love called, "We are taxed twice as," it says, "We are taxed twice as much by our idleness, three times as much by our pride, and 4 times as much by our folly." So what's really going to make you successful is being proactive about your future. So you can't be idle. Getting a job nowadays is not about perusing job boards and submitting applications. It's about creating your own opportunities for yourself, networking with people that can get you introductions to companies that you want to work for. And so much of being an entrepreneur is also identifying opportunities and really creating them for yourself. You cannot let your pride get the best of you. Everyone's going to start at the bottom and started at the bottom somewhere. Don't focus on like what your skills could have you doing. Focus on those like 3 learning objectives so that you are, again, constantly learning. And if you're an entrepreneur, I mean, you don't know where your next paycheck might come from. So you have to be willing, my dad told me this, like you have to be willing to paint walls. You have to be willing to babysit or willing to walk dogs because your company's not going to have linear growth. Nothing's really beneath you when you're trying, pursuing your career. And then finally, don't let your folly get in the way. So if things are not working, be willing to change course. If you don't like the job because it doesn't fit your nature and your boss is not supporting you, it's okay to go. Don't keep yourself in a negative environment just because people think that's what you're supposed to do. I mean, you're gonna get fired, you're gonna start a job, you're gonna start a company, you're gonna go broke, you're gonna get laid off, you're gonna hate the commute. Just be willing to not let that get in the way of you just kind of picking yourself up and course correcting. And continuing forward, and that's important in your career, whether you work for anyone or whether you have your own business. So,
thank you. That was a great answer. Just quick comment before I move to the next panelist. What was very interesting, I think, about your response, Lindsay, was, the question was, how do students prepare themselves? And your entire response was about mental attitude, personality, these personal skills. It wasn't you have to learn computer science, you have to learn, right? It was all about the self, which I think is extremely interesting, preparing for today's job market.
There are classes, though, in the closed school of entrepreneurship and the engineering school that will help you be able to craft plans and execute them. And kind of build that resilience and know-how, and I think Drexel's really great at that.
Thank you.
So if you don't feel like you're good in that area,
come to the closed school.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways to learn that now.
Great, thank you. Melissa, you've been around startups for a long time now, and you've certainly know what it is to learn from past mistakes, as Lindsay has alluded to. So I'm going to ask you a really interesting question. So can you share with us, what have been some of your biggest mess-ups, if you might, and in your experience and in others, and what do you do about them?
Yeah, great question. So I come from an interesting background and perspective where I actually didn't go right into startups after college. I got my undergrad at Penn State studying marketing and communications, and worked for a Fortune 200 company for over 5 years doing B2B analytics and managing a team in a very, very corporate environment. So one of the biggest mistakes I think I made early on, and even making that transition from the corporate world to the startup world, was really not, I researched a lot on what I wanted to build and the company I wanted to build, but not as much on the network that was going to be there for me when I went to become an entrepreneur and do my startup. So I think that was probably one of the biggest surprises that I had making that transition and I probably would have done it earlier if I knew making that really, really risky jump from having a really nice paying job to earning nothing meant I was going to land into a community like Philadelphia that had so much support and so many people doing amazing things and so many resources. So I definitely, one of the mistakes I'd say I made early on was really not understanding that landscape, but was really fortunate to know that I was in the business of building a company that was all around networking. So part of what my job was in the first year of building our startup when we were doing and building our product was I spent almost a full-time job networking in this marketplace here and just building out my connections, meeting new people. I think one of the mistakes I see other entrepreneurs make is they get really lost into just getting in their zone of their company, and that's a really good thing to be 110% in on that as well. But you get so much value out of getting yourself out there and going networking and going to the different meetups and meeting people like Archna and hearing their perspective. It's sometimes exhausting because it's 8 o'clock at night, you've been working since 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's a networking event that you have to go to, and you just want to go to bed or catch up on the latest episode of Game of Thrones, and you have to go out to network. And every time I've been in that situation and I went out, there's always been a connection I've made that has altered or changed the path or changed my perspective and what I built at my company. So I'd say that's a big mistake you can avoid by leveraging the network, especially while you're here as a student. There's so much going on in Philadelphia that you can tap into just to learn from. Another mistake that I made for a very short period of time and quickly got shaken out of it by a great mentor was the fear of sharing your idea with others. People get very concerned on you got to sign an NDA if I'm going to talk to you about my idea because I think you're going to steal it and make a lot of money off of it. And if you're talking to any other entrepreneur, they do not have an extra second in their day to even steal your idea if it's the greatest idea in the world. Our number one lack of resource is time. So being comfortable talking to other people about your idea, being comfortable taking feedback, not taking it too personally, and know that people are giving you that feedback to help shape and mold the direction of your company. And a lot of times people know a lot more than you might know, so it's always good advice that you're getting, and it's always a good insight whether you follow it or not, to just look at things from different perspectives. Something that I kind of do as a best practice is each month I try to meet with a new entrepreneur or a new person in the space just to talk about what they're up to, because not only does it get me out of just tassel mode for a hot second, it also, when I go back into tassel mode, I go in with a different perspective and a different insights of ways of looking at my business and looking at how other people are looking at their businesses. Definitely build your mentors out really early on. We made some kind of silly mistakes early on in how we structured the company, and we had to go through a restructuring and things that way that I wasn't aware of. It's impossible to know everything you're going to need to know building a startup. You definitely learn a lot along the way. Studying as much as you can. There's a lot of obviously opportunities available here to learn about the different things that are involved in a startup, but there's a lot of resources online. There's a lot of ways you can learn from your peers and build yourself a nice network of people that you can kind of share those experiences with. You'll make a lot of silly mistakes that you'll get to laugh about later, but at the time are terribly embarrassing. I have one from this exact room here about 14 months ago when we were raising our first round of capital. I'm a woman entrepreneur. My company's name is Tassel, which has the word ass in it, and if you wear a blazer over a t-shirt that says it, you get up in front of a room like this on a stage in front of 300 investors with a shirt that says ass on it. So as an early entrepreneur, I quickly learned that coming from corporate and wanting to still wear my company t-shirt because I was in tech now and still be professional and wear a blazer was a terrible idea when your company name is spelled that way. So there's things like that you'll kind of shake off, and it's terribly embarrassing at the time. It's not the end of the world. There'll be times where
you certainly stood out.
Yeah, I did. I actually did. And it's something some of our investors who were there just laugh about to this day and always bring up in meetings, which is heartbreaking to always be reminded of it. So there's things like that you'll laugh about because and you have to have fun with it. I think another big mistake that I make sometimes is not celebrating the milestones enough. You are always head down and straight on the go, and you hit a milestone and you want to immediately get to the next one. But taking the time to really enjoy it, celebrate it with your team. We've been really fortunate that I came from a background where I did corporate recruiting as well. So how we've hired at our team has been really, really important for us. Where we're always looking for people who demonstrate the same values that we want to instill in our company. So that's always something I think I see people make a mistake of too, where they just want a quick hire, or they're looking to fill a spot, or they need something done. Really making sure you're not creating any kind of debt in your company by bringing on the wrong people, whether it's HR debt or technical debt with decisions to do things quicker. Those are some of the largest mistakes I think we've made and really kind of learned from and been able to bounce back from. But you're going to fail a lot. That's part of being a startup, so you got to get comfortable with that too. But overall, you'll learn from every failure. And somebody who's in that type of characteristic trait where they are an entrepreneur, you really thrive off that, and you don't take it personally, and you really see the learnings right away. So while there are going to be days that are really, really hard, know that there are going to be days that are really, really awesome too, and it's a great journey to be part of.
Great, thank you. Thanks. That was a great response. Archna, I'm going to actually play with your question a little bit.
Sure.
So,
Awesome.
yeah. So you have so much experience in the startup ecosystem here at Philadelphia, and somewhat along with Melissa and Lindsay have talked about is this kind of mindset, right? That entrepreneurship, being an entrepreneur, is really about a mindset. And so I'm going to ask you, what's the kind of the most critical piece of mindset for entrepreneurs, and maybe is there a difference with women?
Wow. All right.
All right.
So, yes, I mean, there is a difference with women. But I'll address the first part of it. Definitely the mindset, complacency, right? Don't be complacent. Complacency will kill you. It will make you irrelevant. So you always have to be out there. I mean, just in line with what my wonderful panelists have already said. So you have to stay curious. You have to learn, continue to learn about your industry. The statistics that Donna gave out earlier are all true. The world is changing. There are jobs out there that have not even been created. So you have to stay curious. And then networks. Networks are really, really important. And networks can be built in many ways. Obviously, you're in this room, you're going to meet so many people. And don't just, hang out with the folks that you know. Take some time to meet somebody entirely new, somebody totally different. Everybody is here for that reason, right? So don't be scared, don't be shy, go up and do that. Also with networks, the other thing I would recommend, it's a strategy that I use and I found very, very useful. Cold emails work. They're a thing. So kind of think about where you might want to be 5 to 10 years from now, and read the newspaper, go on the internet, read blogs, seek community leaders, seek out community leaders, and just shoot them a quick note, right? Emails, everything is pretty much available publicly online. Shoot them a quick note, be respectful of their time, have a very specific ask, 1 or 2 very specific asks, and say something as simple as like, I will take 10 minutes of your time, whatever is convenient for you, whether it's over email or I can take you out to coffee. 9 out of 10 times people will respond. And even if they are not available, at least what I've experienced is they will refer you to 5 other people that are able to answer your particular question. So it's a really, really powerful tool. It's a very simple lift, and yes, going to events is really tough at the end of the day. It's really, really hard. So email is easy. You're sitting there on the couch watching Game of Thrones, you can just knock out a few emails, and what I've noticed is probably over the course of like 6 months to a year, you can build out an entirely new network. So if you have that timeline in your mind, you can do that. And with mentorship, I would also recommend, very, very important, especially so for women. Mentorship, sponsorship, all these things are extremely important, and I would highly recommend seeking out mentors and sponsors that are not in your industry, because they will give you a perspective that you hadn't even thought of. There's a lot of like groupthink that tends to happen, right, when you're just hanging out with the same people. I think we witnessed that recently. So what I would highly recommend is like seek out mentors. For instance, I was in finance for 10 years. One of my most valuable, wonderful mentors is a lawyer. And he just sees things in a different way than I do, and is able to give me so many insights that I just wouldn't have come to myself, or even come to if I was just hanging out with just finance people. And I guess to the point of being a woman in this industry, or whether you're in finance, whether you're in tech, whether you're in medicine or law, it's okay to have mentors who are men, right? Like there is this thing again, like there's a community. It's important to have folks around you that look like you, and you can't be what you can't see. We say that quite a bit. So yes, I definitely admire women who are 10, 15, 20 years ahead of me and doing just like kick-ass things, and I want to like aspire to that, and they can do it and I can do it, and that's really, really great. But it's what I don't want to happen is we focus so much on, okay, female founders and women founders and all of that, that we ignore the fact that there are these wonderful, supportive networks of amazing men out there that are doing really great things too. The point is to like come together and learn from one another and create an ecosystem that is valuable for everybody, right? So yes, there is value to being in a room that is women only, but there is also a value to being in a room that looks like the rest of the community that you live in. So as a female founder, I would say, or a women entrepreneur, or somebody, a female corporate leader, speak up, connect with folks that look like you, connect with folks that don't look like you, and be a part of your community and give back in any way that you possibly can. It's panels like this, or it's sponsoring young women as they come up in their particular career, or it's writing a blog post, a simple blog post about what you're experiencing, because there are people that are looking for answers and are looking for pathways for themselves, and everyone is doing it in their own particular way. So just let your voice be heard in whatever way that you feel comfortable, and just know that, especially in Philadelphia, there's a great community of people out there that are here to support and be there for you. And then, of course, great programs too. I mean, rooms like this, what Drexel does, what Biata Institute does, Chuck Sacco is wonderful, and then other organizations throughout the city. So, for instance, the City of Philadelphia has started PHL, which is our platform for promoting entrepreneurship and activity in the city. And then lovely ladies like this that are sitting on the panel, we're all here to support and help you any way we can.
Great, thanks. I'm going to ask one discussion question, and then we'll open it up to the audience to ask questions. Chuck, is that? Okay. Oh. So this is really interesting, particularly to me as an educator. I hear there's a lot of themes, common themes among what the three of you have said, that you've got to be resilient, you have to learn from your mistakes, you have to network, you have to mentor, a lot of learning. I love what you said, that leaders are learners, constantly learning. The cold email idea was just a spectacular idea. The idea that, you have to share your ideas, celebrate the little wins. So a question that we often get in higher education, so let me just, I think, entrepreneurship and being an entrepreneur is important for the current job market. And it doesn't always mean starting a venture. It could mean being entrepreneurial in a company. So do you think it's possible to teach someone how to be what you just said?
So I have a blog post on Medium that kind of takes what I answered before and flushes it out with even more advice, and it links to this article I wrote a couple years ago called "Jumping Out of an Airplane," like how to test your risk tolerance. And I think that besides teaching yourself to be a builder of things, to identify problems, to craft solutions, I think that there are certainly ways that you can test your risk tolerance so you can become more comfortable with the failures. The failures I wrote down is like, there is no failure. There's only learning opportunities, but it takes time to get into that mindset, and it takes failure, a lot of them, to get comfortable with that. But jumping out of an airplane, going to a bar by yourself, going on a weekend vacation.
Our students don't do that.
I'm sorry. Go to dinner.
There's no alcohol at those bars.
Go to dinner by yourself. I know that there's some graduate students.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, they're allowed.
But, they're like doing stuff alone, introducing yourself to strangers, going to meet up events by yourself. Right. These are all things that you are like, in order to be outstanding, you have to be willing to stand out.
That's a really good response, doing things yourself. Archna.
I would say there's a difference, right? I think there's entrepreneurship, and then there's building a successful business. So I believe that everyone on some level has entrepreneurship within them, has the qualities of what it means to be entrepreneurial. A little bit of risk-taking, a little bit of naivete, a little bit of crazy. But then when it comes to building a business, absolutely that you can learn. And again, programs like Bayada and Drexel, they will teach you what it is to be a successful business owner. But to venture into that space of, hey, I'm going to start a business, being an entrepreneur, yeah, I think that that exists in all of us on some level. Maybe it just hasn't hit because you haven't found a problem that you really, really care about that you want to solve. So stay curious and find a problem.
Melissa.
Yeah, just it's a funny conversation that as we work, and I know Archna does the same, working with schools that are building entrepreneurial programs and having that discussion of whether or not it can actually be taught. And I agree totally with Archna around, building a business is something that can be taught and what goes into it and all the things, the ins and outs that you need to know. But the entrepreneurship side of it is definitely a mindset. And so people all the time ask me, did I always know I was going to be an entrepreneur? And the answer is absolutely not. Now looking back, I see all the tendencies of, even as a kid when I was playing fake kitchen in my basement, I was like building menu design and pricing strategies instead of, trying to just serve food like my friends were. And I was making, now that's what I call music CDs, mixes early on and selling them to friends in school and doing things like that, that now looking back seem very entrepreneurial to me, but it didn't really hit me until I went through the Dream It program and they took us out in the woods and took away our internet for 3 days at the beginning of it, which was a terrifying experience. But they had great speakers come in and one of the speakers talked about, the people in the room, because it was all the founders of all the companies that were in the program, are really kind of the 1% of the world that have a mindset that is entrepreneurial. And it's not the 1% that, of the richest, but we're the 1% of the people who think a little bit differently. And until you realize that if you are an entrepreneur, you do think differently than a lot of other people, it's really hard to identify yourself as an entrepreneur. And that really comes down to the way you assess and look at the world, and that you see opportunity everywhere. And I can't even go to a car dealership without seeing their software and just being mind-boggled that they're still operating in certain systems. Be like, I can't believe this operates this way. There's so many better ways to do it. So it's that mindset that you have to always be looking to do things better or find more effective ways to do things, or seeing things in different lights that makes you an entrepreneur. And you might not know that because you don't know that everybody else doesn't think that way. So that was a huge kind of eye-opener for me to know that, that's not how everybody thinks necessarily. Some people just don't look at the world that way. So it's why I didn't fit well in corporate America specifically, and why I am so much happier now, even though I sleep way less as somebody who runs a startup. So.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the audience? We have a mic here. Yes, can you go up to them?
We good? Okay, yeah, thank you for coming. Absolutely, it's a great panel. I appreciate all your time. It's normally a busy Friday. Your inboxes are probably filling up as you sit here. So I have a question for everyone, but especially for Archna. So Philadelphia is extremely attractive for medical companies and educational tech. Are you seeing strides to strengthen those industries, or are you seeing a shift in the entire spectrum of industries in Philadelphia?
Great question. So it's a little bit of both. So we are definitely seeing strides to continue to double down on the competitive advantage that we have in Philadelphia, which is healthcare, health tech, and ed tech. We're seeing organizations come together, collaborate. We're seeing younger tech startups able to kind of plug in to those decision makers within those anchor institutions. And from the city's perspective too, we're looking internally at City Hall to see, we're the second largest employer in the city of Philadelphia. So how, and the health systems and all those things that we have internally, how can we leverage the brains of the tech community to help us address those challenges? And then to your second point, what I have seen a lot of in the last probably just year, VR, AR, tons of that going on. Drones, advanced manufacturing technologies, 3D printing. I'm really seeing a lot of activity in that space here in Philly. And I find advanced manufacturing especially to be very, very interesting because robots are going to be taking over certain jobs. But what's interesting, and the infrastructure, Philadelphia has the infrastructure for that, right? We were the manufacturing workshop of the world, et cetera. So tons of physical assets that are available in the city of Philadelphia for advanced manufacturing tech startups to come, land here, launch here, grow here, stay here.
Thank you.
Greetings. Director Sahay, my question is for you as well. My question is, does your office have a policy of establishing partnerships with organizations that are creating apprenticeship programs so that you can have essentially a pipeline system for giving money out to people who qualify?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Great question, and we do. So this particular year, under Mayor Kenny's administration, we have launched a workforce development team within the Department of Commerce, which is charged with just that, addressing the pipeline issue across all the many sectors and all the different industries in the city of Philadelphia. And I'm happy we can connect after the panel. But yes, so we are looking at pipeline, we are looking at apprenticeship, and we are looking at federal programs and how we can implement those in Philadelphia.
Okay, well then my follow-up is I need to talk to you at the break.
Great, no problem.
He's networking.
Yes, way to go. That's how you do it.
This is one of our close school students.
I was wondering if you can tell us any countries in particular we should pay attention for entrepreneurship developments. For instance, countries in Europe, Israel, certain other countries that we should just be looking at this country, but other places as well.
Israel. Israel for sure.
Oh, India for sure.
I'll just say that. Is the question around like opportunities for marketing your products or opportunities for like finding jobs in startups?
Well, basically startup development specifically for technology.
Right. So yeah, Israel is a powerhouse. Obviously, we are a powerhouse. I'm seeing. I started my career in Silicon Valley. I spent 4 years there. I spent 4 years in New York. I returned to Philadelphia. I grew up here. There's definitely kind of like a diaspora of technology communities that are growing right now, which I'm really happy to see because I did not like living in Silicon Valley and I did not like actually living in New York. Didn't find this place enjoyable. So you're seeing it all over the country and you see kind of cities being specialties for certain things. I do want to call out that there's interesting innovation coming out of Africa because they kind of totally skipped like desktops and laptops and went straight to like mobile payments. And they are kind of, I did work for a large credit card company last year and like we were doing research in P2P payments by looking at companies coming out of Africa because and I think the same is in India as well, that their technology evolution has been drastically different and so their innovations are drastically different and we're actually trying to catch up to them in P2P payments.
I also think it's important to note that you can start technology companies anywhere now. It's more and more important to think about the market you're trying to build tech in and position yourself in that specific market because the cost of operating technology companies has drastically changed over the years and you can start a company out of a small town in PA. I'm just hearing about tech companies popping up, so it's really around being strategic on where you can do the most market assessment and build the best partnerships and build the best network out for your specific industry. I think now more than ever you don't just have to move to Silicon Valley if you want to start a tech company now. It's really you can be more strategic as to where you're doing it.
Right, and tech companies are no longer tech for tech's sake. Like that's what Silicon Valley is really good for. But New York's really good for like media tech and ad tech and fintech. And so it's like technology for any industry. So where's that industry? Where are your clients? Where are your partners going to be?
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question.
Hello. First of all, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for putting all these resources together. My question is a little bit more basic. I find myself with tons of ideas as well as many people in this room. Do you find that confidence in those ideas should be more natural, or are there specific steps to take to build that confidence behind your idea and your plan of action? Thank you.
It's a good question.
It's a good question.
This is my expertise.
Do you want to?
Yeah.
I'll go first quickly. I definitely think if you have a good idea and something that you feel passionate about, you should have a lot of passion for it for sure. You shouldn't just think of where's an opportunity because it's going to be really hard for a really long period of time. So if you're not passionate about it, it's gonna be harder and harder to get up at those hours and work the type of hours you're going to do to see it succeed. And for me personally, in the community we built around Tassel, a lot of people want to be involved and get involved and partner with us because of the passion that exists in the company. So I think that's really, really critical. I also think, building partnerships to really understand and the industry you're in and the ins and outs. And early on, I literally sat in alumni relations departments and watched people do their jobs and talk to them day to day, and watch people use the products that they were using to really understand the ins and outs. And that builds your confidence over time as to becoming an industry expert. So taking the time to do your research and really understand what the needs are that you're trying to address. We went into Tassel thinking we were addressing one issue and found a ton more that were very similar that we could build into the product to really add more value to it. And as we keep adding more value to the product, the confidence in the product keeps building and building. So it grows over time, but it should definitely start with a lot of passion.
If you're entrepreneurial with that 1% mindset, you have ideas all the time. I've had like 7 business ideas since the election because of all the problems that have emerged.
We're not going there.
And I'm not going, but like I'm excited, right? Like I'm inspired because there's problems to solve. The best advice I got is that if you have an idea you're super excited about, spend 1 hour on it, just like 1 hour head down, writing out all the things that are swirling around in your brain.
That's great advice.
Then take a step back for like 24 hours or so and decide if that's something that's really worth you working on and worth your time, because I got 7 ideas, but I don't, like if I did them all, I would get nothing done. But after that, you're absolutely correct. Like market validation, customer validation, the biggest mistake every entrepreneur has made is thinking that you know what the solution is and you are the user, and you know what? You can't buy your product. You need other people to buy your products and services, so you need to go talk to them. And that should be the validation. And it helps you frame the problem so you can craft a solution that really captures all of them, right?
Yeah. Did you want to weigh in on this, Archna?
I have a finance background, so I always tend to gravitate towards numbers, and I find confidence in that. So in addition, obviously, lots of passion, know who your customers are, but know your numbers. I mean, you can't sell it for free, right? Like, you're not going to make any money. So you have to know the numbers, you have to know how it's going to scale, you have to know if it's happening in the United States, if it's happening in India, if it's happening in Israel, like where the market is, where the people are, and how much they're going to pay for it. So I've always found confidence in numbers.
Okay, so I'm getting the look from Chuck Sacco, but however, despite that, I'm going to pop a little lightning round on you. So, couple 5-second answers, 2 questions. Here's the first question. Melissa. Quick few seconds. Best thing about Philadelphia's entrepreneurial ecosystem. Go.
It's just a lot of fun. Everybody's building really cool things, and it's inspiring, and it's nice to be around people who are just as crazy as you are, because it gets really hard to relate to others sometimes. So surrounding yourselves with the crazies in Philly is great.
Yeah.
Unlike any community I've lived in, everyone here seems to have a second purpose of benefiting Philadelphia, which I think is so cool, because that builds the community even more.
Wonderful.
What everybody said, and diversity of thought, of race, of gender, of background, diversity.
Second question. What is the best thing? This is a tough one because there's so many. What is the best thing about Drexel University?
Future buyers of Tassel.
Very good, very good.
I would definitely say the program you guys run with the co-ops and the real world work. I had that as well in my engineering school at UVA, and so I like to say that I've been doing what I do since 2002. So I think that's awesome that that happens here.
Archna.
Well, my sister graduated from here. She
There
got
you
a
go. It's one
BS, MS
good
in
thing.
engineering, so we're part of the Drexel family. The team at Drexel, they're so committed. They care so much about their students, about Drexel, about University City, about the city of Philadelphia, and it is absolute joy and pleasure to work with everyone here.
Thank you. So Lindsay, Melissa, Archna, thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for listening. Startup Day.
And thank you to Dean DeCarolis. Great job.